All right, Mopar people, welcome back to the channel. I'm just Mopar Joe. If you've been following along, this is the 1975 model 400 that I'm building to finally stick in my Dart Sport. So last time I showed this engine, I dropped the crank in just to see how it would rotate, and I actually checked the piston to deck height so I could kind of get a final compression ratio. And Ed at Ed's machine was spot on with that. If we have a 75cc combustion chamber, I kind of showed those stats in that last video. So what I want to do today is actually check the main bearing clearance with some plastic gauge and tell you a little bit about the 400 and why it is highly overlooked. So the reason I say this is such a tall order to try to get 500 horsepower out of this engine, I am using the stock stroke crankshaft, and from the factory I actually have a good old motor auto repair manual, and I found it. So 1975, we got a V8 400, there we go, 4-barrel, 195 horsepower. So I'm trying to add 300 horsepower to that without a turbo, without a nitrous, without anything of that sort. I'm going to add compression. I'm going to have a lot better camshaft. It'll actually be a roller cam. And that's about it. Better flowing heads. I've got some videos on those. So I just wanted to show you that real quickly. 195 horsepower. And it has the footnotes of 1 and 4 there. So if we flip over and find those just real quick. Excuse me. Number 1, the ratings are net as installed in the vehicle. And number 4 would be California. So I don't know if this was a California engine or not. The other options here would be, let's see, 195 horsepower or 235 horsepower. And that 1 and 2, the 2 actually means with dual exhausts. So I'm certain that this did not have dual exhaust. I'll show you a couple pictures of where this engine actually came from. I got this from my buddy Rick, and he said, man, here's where we got that motor. So definitely not a dual exhaust car. So I'm trying to add 300 horse to this. So very cool to have these old manuals. What we're looking for today is main bearing clearance. I also referenced in my other engine build, this how to rebuild big block Mopar book. It's pretty good, by Svensson. But I went back to the old school stuff here, and I wanted to show you what this book actually recommends. So it's sad that page is torn, but if you get to 72 to 74 there, 400, follow it, 5 to 2.5. So I think we can meet that today. I've got my just some Speedway motors, 1 to 3 thousandths, plastic gauge. I did not pull this crank back out yet. My plan was to check each one individually. I'll get it back out, put my bottom half of my rear main seal in, which I showed that process in the 413 video series, so I wasn't going to show it again here. Trying to keep it fresh for you all. So I will plastic gauge each one of these. I'll check them with you, and we'll see what we come up with. The bearings that I'm using are these Clevites, and there's our part number, MS876P, and they are fully grooved bearings, so they're pretty nice. They were about $100 on eBay for a new set. So cut me a piece out of my plastic gauge set. I did lay it right there on try to get to the very top of that crank journal. And I wiped the bearing and I wiped the journal surface with a little bit of lacquer thinner on a very clean and brand new paper towel. My objective is to lock this down, give it a quick torque, pop it off without spinning that crank and distorting that measurement. I don't have any doubt in my mind right now that this crank's going to be fine. Like I said, I've had the caps on, bolted down, and it spins very freely and nicely. But for the video's sake, I wanted to go ahead and test these just to be sure. Also, Ed has measured these journals for me and said that most likely they will be totally fine. It is a good practice to kind of check your stuff with plastic gauge. I've got a dial bore and some micrometers over there that we're going to do the rod journals with, but not today. So that'll be kind of next step video for this. And I'll take you along for that process. Let me get this bolted down and we'll check it out. It is also worth mentioning, anytime you're using ARP bolts, use a little bit out of the heads, a little bit on the threads every time you torque them. It'll give you the correct torque amount. So I got these torqued down. There it is. And we get out our little piece of paper. See what we got. So likely where that raised spot is right there is where the groove of the bearing is. So it's not going to crush that as much. I'd call that about 2/1000. Maybe a little wider, but it's definitely not 1. So we're not quite 1.5. You can call it 2/1000. That front bearing is perfect. So I'll get it wiped off, move on to check my number 2, and so on like that. We got our number 2 piece on here, right there in the middle. I'm gonna go ahead and get it bolted down, show you that quick process. There's no need in you watching me do every one of these because it's the same thing over and over again. So let me show you how I get that cap back on. I did go ahead and wipe the bottom side of that shell. Notches go together. These are down there. You know, get a little bit of lube on my fingers from the ARP stuff, but guard it up nicely. There we go. This is a hammer. Take your hammer handle, tap. Now we're cooking. There it went. To about 80 foot-pounds, and I'll do them in little by little steps, 3 steps. I believe they go to 100 or 105 to finish with. Obviously this is not the final install of this. We are still mocking things up. There we go. Move a little faster. Might scare a lot of people. I'm gonna pull that bolt out. I will take my hammer handle, pick the bolt up, don't jar the threads, give it a little light tap. Nothing's getting harmed. That's it. It broke right free. Lift the cap straight out. We look at our marks. Focus. Okay, so you see we're a little wider than 2, but not 1.5. Definitely not 1. We're in a safe zone. I think most of these will end up being very close to that, and that's, in my mind, is pretty well perfect. 2/1000, 2.5. I mean, this engine will get revved pretty quickly after it's built, so I would rather it be a little loose than a little tight. So I know I've talked about it before, like I said in other videos on how to clean a crankshaft. I picked this up from Ed at Ed's Machine. He did balance it for me, and he even chamfered my oil holes here, and I'll get you a close-up on that. So again, this crank's been balanced, I can see a new hole right there. So balanced, he chamfered the oil holes. He also polished it. So it is not Ed's duty to clean out the holes right here. See that gunk in there? So basically I'm picking the crank up, I'm installing it. If he was building this engine, he would clean this, but he's not, I am, just like you at home would be, etc. So it's really important to take special care of cleaning that sort of stuff out of there. There you go. Pretty nasty. So what I've got here is just a Remington gun cleaning kit. This one actually comes with a cable set up. So I'm gonna run that through here. Very carefully, I'll set my camera back up so you can see me. And then I'm going to take, this is just a piece of string. I was trying to find a new shoestring, but I found this in the house instead. It would work just fine. So after I brush out with this wire brush 2 or 3 times, I'll look through, double check. Then I can take my shoestring. This is just a cup with a little bit of lacquer thinner on it, and use that for my final clean through there. So it'll really clean that stuff out. Don't forget, like big holes like this. See if I can't. Crankshaft looks pretty nice, right? See there? That is my responsibility to get cleaned out of there before this goes in that engine. And it's ready to be bolted in. The engine itself is ready to assemble. I always like to double check down these holes. I know I've showed you that in the past. See, beautiful daylight. These have all been cleaned out. Ed cleaned this out when he did the block washing video. Right there. And then the front one goes at an angle, just like that. Be sure you check all those really, really carefully. You can also flip over and check that cam bearing where it goes both directions. Mike can look through right there. See it? See straight through it, no problem. Check this side. Right there. She's beautiful. I mean, you could also use a flashlight and stick through, obviously. But I was just doing a quick show for you here. I'll get this crankshaft cleaned up and drop her in. Go through. Look at that. And see what she looks like. Brand new money. That hole's nice and clean. There's a little scrape in there, but that's not for me. So I'll do the same thing with this one. See, she's got a little gunk, and I'll just go all the way down the line. All right, I went ahead and got my blowgun out, used compressed air and blew up through all the holes. My final step, I'm gonna take my finger and rub vigorously over any of this, just in case whenever I was wire brushing it brought up a burr of some kind. I would rather basically cut my fingertip than destroy a bearing, because fingers will grow back but bearings won't. So just go around and feel them, you know. All these feel pretty nice. Double, triple check. There's that last one down there. And there it is. I'll give it one more wipe over and drop it in the engine. What I have here is a little bit of Lucas Assembly Lube, semi-synthetic. I'm gonna put a dab on every bearing, good smear, front and back of the thrust bearing. This stuff is a little more stickier than my normal Lucas 50-50 mix. And I know it'll be a little while before I'm able to run this engine and finish building it. So I think this stuff will stick in there better than using like white lithium or something like that. I'm not really into that. So I'll get her lubed up, dropped in. My rear seal is RTV'd in. You can see the lip pointing towards the oil, so when the oil hits it, it's not going to blow past it. I got a red smear of grease on it. Hopefully you can see that. Just trying to do a sanitary build here. Let's get her dropped. Coming down. There you go. Crank's dropped. I like to give it a little spin just to get past that kind of breakover point. So now the fluid is nicely hydraulic all around it, whatever you want to call it. I'll put a dab of assembly lube on top, and then I'll stick some on my caps, throw my caps back in, re-lube them with my ARP Ultra Torque. So before I throw any more caps on, I want to show you this thrust bearing. I just kind of how I set it. You can look over in the book here and they basically tell you, start with main cap number 3. If you want to pause this and read that, you can. What I did was got it to where it's pretty snug with my little breaker bar. Turns just fine. I already know it turns fine because I already checked all that. We're going to take a block of wood and a hammer. I'm going to hit in the back. I'm going to hit it in the front. I'm going to torque it down. I'm going to hit it again and again, and that's going to be it. It's I've seen engines that, you know, you don't have any idea if that's been done to them before, but that's kind of the practice I'm going to go with here, so I'll show that to you real quick. I do not have a rubber hammer, but I got a good block of wood and a hammer. So I'll just get her there. One more time. Come around. You can lay it sideways. It's not. That's it. Still spin like a champ. I'll get her torqued up. And I'll probably quit right here for the day. She spins by one finger. It's a little bit stickier than before because of that assembly lube. I don't have my top portion of my rear main seal stick in today, which is the bottom portion actually. What I will do is roll this block over. Got me a little, actually a snot sucker from a baby, but my Lucas 50/50 mix. I'm gonna stick just a little dab in every one of those holes, and it'll be running down to the main bearings. If I can shoot you in there. There it goes. Right there. Keep them from getting dried out for the next, I don't know, week or however long. As always, I appreciate y'all watching. Hopefully we'll hit that 500 number sometime. This will be my first engine that ever touches the dyno, so that'll be exciting. Hope y'all hang out.